Hello.
Hello.
Who are you?
I'm Tim Lambert, American English teacher in Prague.
You're an English teacher?
Yes.
After everything you said to me last night? Wow. Okay. And what are you doing here?
I was walking around the world and I just got to Prague and I stopped.
Okay. And what are you going to hopefully get out of this weekend?
New career.
No pressure then. Any concerns?
You guys have toilet paper?
Final words?
Yeah, I've got a lot of deep issues we have to clear up cathartically during this weekend. I hope you're the man to lead me through it.
I'm going to run away now. Bye. Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your final act of this half of the show? This guy, there's always one in a workshop. The first night I met him was Friday, and he came up to me and he started talking to me, and I felt afraid. I don't know why I felt afraid, but for some reason as I spoke to him, my willy began to contract into my stomach. I ended up with an innie instead of an outie. I don't know what this guy has. He has some kind of negative charisma or something. He fucking scares me. I don't know what it is about him, but he's let's just say, don't go home with him. Ladies and gentlemen, do your best to give this comedian, the last one who's performing for the first time doing stand-up comedy, please give him a wonderful, warm welcome. Start the applause. Start the show. This man has come all the way from America. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Tim Lambert, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Good evening. Woo. All right. This set's going to be a little different. It's going to be completely family friendly, clean. I come from Florida, which is basically the family friendly state, where family comes first. We have Disney World and Space Mountain and Cape Canaveral. It's just a great place. And I grew up in Florida. I grew up with my mom. She was a single parent, but she had me when she was really old. She was like 45. It's like a science experiment. And when I was growing up, she wanted me to call her by her first name, Grace. And like I said, she's really old, and when she was a baby, they called girls names based on feminine traits, positive feminine traits. Like faith, chastity, prudence, virginity. Yeah. So, Florida is kind of a bit like Czech Republic in that, right? To the north of Czech, you got Germany, right? The land of perverts. And German men, they have a tradition of traveling to Czech because they enjoy being with young boys. And, you know, in America, right? In America, you know, people from New York, New Jersey, they also have a tradition of traveling to Florida to, you know, to meet young boys. So, but it's some sort of difference between Czech and America and Florida is there's no public transport in Florida, not at all. So one day I was hitchhiking, because that's the only way to get around. So I was standing by the road hitchhiking, and this rental car comes by, and it stops, it sort of slows down, and it comes around and it circles, and it comes back. You know, and I'm standing here with my thumb out, and the car stops, and the window rolls down, and there's this huge man with this little teeny head. And he's like, hey, do you need a ride? And I'm like, yeah, I could use a ride. Right, so I got in, and we were going along, and he starts some small talk. You know, he's a nice guy, really smooth, right? And he's you know, asking me if I had any girlfriends, you know, handsome guy like me. And then he's like, you know, well, how big is your penis? And I told him, well, you know, it's probably about this big. And he's like, whoa, you serious? That big? No, it's not that big, is it? I'm like, yeah, it's that big. He goes, show me. And you know, I realized that like I had been, it was like he outplayed me. You know? It was like, you ever play tic-tac-toe and you lose on like the third move, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that. I really didn't see it. So I was like, okay, you know, I was like, well, okay, sure, whatever. So you know, the car starts moving back and forth, and he's bobbing up and down. And I'm checking out the tachometer on his car. And I noticed it's at 665. And I was thinking to myself, you know, one more mile, and it would be 666. So then he finishes up, and he's like, I asked him, I was like, so, you know, what do you think? And he's like, man, I don't know, kid. And I was like, because earlier, actually, I forgot to mention this, he'd offered me some money. And I was like, you know, how about, you know, what do you think, you pay up? And he's like, no, if I was going to give you money, we'd have to go back to my hotel room. I was like, oh, no, that's cool, this was enough for me. So, he dropped me off, and as, you know, he probably noticed that I was kind of looking at him judgmentally. He's like, you know, don't judge me, kid, because someday you'll be doing the exact same thing. You know, really, really deep words. You know, they haunted me. You know, haunted me for years. And I just like to say, you know, Mr. Christopher Christie, if you're out there, come on. So, I went on this trip around the world, I thought, and I started in Madrid, and it was my big life adventure. And I was in Madrid, living in a hostel, and you really can't get to know a town until you get high in the town. That's like my feeling. And so there were these two guys, these Ivy League college kids who were staying in the hostel. They're sort of like, you know, real classy Beavis and Butthead types. And they were down in the basement, and they were smoking heroin, right? And then they were like, you know, oh, the pleasure domes of Kubla Khan. You know, and I went up to them and I said, hey, can I borrow some heroin? It looks really cool. And they're like, no. And they had some hash. And there was like, can I get some hash? I'm like, no. And I was like, okay. But they said, we know where you can get some hash. And they explained that, you know, in Spain, that hash is called chocolate. and that there was this transsexual on the street, and you could just go and ask her, him. You just go and ask, and they give you some chocolate. It was like 10 euros. So I thought this was a great idea. So all night I was like going into these dark streets, you know, looking for the transsexual prostitutes, asking them for chocolate, and not a lot of luck. So I went to this one place. It was a really scary neighborhood, you know, lots of flower shops. And there was this prostitute, and she was kind of overweight and, you know, not at her peak. And I asked her, I said, hey, chocolata. And she's like, hey, chocolata. I was like, oh, you know, finally, some chocolata. So I'm like, you know, chocolata. And she's like, hey, chocolata. I was like, oh, okay. So she took me up into her building, and she had this sort of room with a bed and stuff everywhere. And I gave her, it was like 10 euros. And she took my money, and she left the room. And then after a while, she came back, and I'm like, chocolata, would you like a chocolata? And I'm okay. And then she opened her closet, and there was a bidet in there. You know, it really classed the place up. And so she gets over the bidet, and she's freshening herself. And, you know, I'm like, chocolata? They're like, yes, chocolata. You know, I'm like, okay, all right. And she's finished, she dries off. And then she gets on the bed, and she's like, hey, come on. And I'm like, no, something was seriously wrong here. I was just after some chocolata. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I fucked her. And afterwards, she's like, give me, you know, money. And I'm like, oh, I gave you the 10 euros. That's all I had. And I showed her my wallet. There was no money in it. And then she calls the madam, you know, and the two Spanish bouncer guys. And they start arguing, and they ask me what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, I just want some chocolata. And they, chocolata, you know, chocolata. They don't understand at all. And then I tell how I gave her the 10 euros, and she left the room. And they just started screaming at her. And I realized, you know, this poor girl was, you know, likely a victim of human trafficking. That she was trapped in this lifestyle. And here she was like saving my money, hiding it, in order to escape, you know. And I realized as an American, I had a real responsibility to turn around and get the fuck out of there. So I got back to the hostel, and then I was checking my wallet, and my license was gone, my driver's license. So I'm pretty sure that there's wanted posters in every whorehouse in Spain. You know, watch out for this guy. He'll fuck your ugliest whore, not pay her, and break her heart. So eventually I got to Prague in my trip around the world. And when I was here, I wanted to feel like I'm in Prague. I wanted to feel the real Prague experience, and I needed to get high in order to do that. So in Prague, hashish is called shit. So I went to this techno place, all-night techno. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was this guy. He looked like the grandfather of all bikers, right? He had his long gray hair and this black leather jacket and these faded blue tattoos. And he had these bloodshot eyes, you know, like a bloodhound dog. Like his skin was too big for his body. Like if, you know, Gandalf had fucked Ozzy Osbourne. So I go up to the guy and I'm like, hey man, do you have any shit? And he's like, I don't have any shit. And I was like, oh, man. He goes, but I do have something. And I was like, okay, well, what do you have? And he did this pantomime. He had a lighter in his hand, and he held his fist to his forehead, and then he lit the lighter slowly, with the sparks were flying, and then he slowly opened his fist on his forehead. And I realized that this represented the blossoming of the third eye. You know. And that's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. So we went on this walk through Prague, and like I said, it was really late at night, and it's kind of foggy. And we were walking down the streets, and as we were walking, the street lights would like flicker and get dark. And then when we go past them, they light back up. It's some strange Czech timing system they have here. So we were like in this bubble of darkness, just traveling down the streets of Prague. And we went past this really dirty pub, and smoky. And outside of the pub, there was this Datsun, Toyota Datsun. There was this little dog, Yezachi, a wiener dog, right? You seen them? Wiener dogs, sausage dogs. And he was on the sidewalk, and his back legs were missing. And he had one of those doggy wheelchairs. But he was lying on his side, you know, in a warm puddle of piss. And his legs were kicking, his front legs were kicking, and he was like trying to turn himself back onto his wheels. So I was walking, and I was like, oh, I gotta help the dog, you know. And Gandalf the Goth, he was like, no, don't touch the dog. His owner is within. And he pointed into the pub, and then I saw that his owner was there drinking beer. And he had just turned the dog over on his side so that it wouldn't run away. And he was drinking. You know, the Czechs are really clever like that. So then we get to this building, House, right? And we go in there, and I'm with Gandalf the Black, and he takes me to this room, and there's this barbershop chair in the room with some straps hanging off it, right? And he's like, okay, just have a seat. So I sat in the chair, right? And he wheels up this little trolley with some tools. And there was a couple ice picks, a pork hammer, and a car battery. And I'm like, well, what's all this for? And he's like, well, I'm going to take the ice pick and stick it above your eyelid, and then gently tap it through the optic orb and into your frontal lobes of your brain. And then I'm going to turn on the switch and pass a direct current from one hemisphere to the next. And I was like, okay. And then I asked him, like, well, what will happen? What will my experience be? And he said, you tell me, you always keep coming back. And I was like, yeah, well, okay. And I asked him, I was like, so you're not around here from you. Or, you're not around here from you? You're not from around here, are you? And he said, no, I'm not. Beneath the mines of Moria, I fought a creature of shadow and fire. But then I fell into the abyss. and I may have added my mind. And then he starts working on me, he's tapping him in, and that's all. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.